Hello and welcome everyone to the very last of our six-part series of project parties all the way through the RootsTech series. We're delighted today to have as our very special guest Hilary Blanford out of the East Surrey Family History Society, who's joined us to give us a right proper wash-up party. um, I had the pleasure of meeting Hilary through an introduction by Emma Cox, who is the host of the wonderful Journeys into Genealogy podcast. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect, was absolutely delighted and thrilled that she accepted my invitation to join us for this series. And I can think of no one better to ground all of the noise of RootsTech down to what it is, why it matters, what we're here, and let's just make a proper Project Kim party out of it. So Hilary, who is not Helen Ellerton, will you be so kind as to take it off for us?
Okay, well, thanks very much for inviting me, Barbara. It's an interesting experience and one I've not had before as a kind of RootsTech side show or whatever. But anyway, we decided to use this format between us because it's one that I've done before with East Surrey. We have a virtual family history fair that we do in January. We've done 3 of them now, and we end up with the wash up. And I perhaps need to explain a bit more about the virtual fair. I use Zoom and we use breakout rooms, and we invite as many societies who want to play with us as wish to come. And we give every society a breakout room, and we enable the movement between breakout rooms to be free, so people can just take themselves from room to room to room. But in this case, they're moving from society to society to society, and they can ask questions about local history and whatever. And it's great fun, great success. And we had a wash-up party at the end of it, saying, and I'm going to ask you the same question as I ask the party. What have you discovered as a really exciting discovery, or what was your light bulb moment of RootsTech so far?
Mine was the text searching with AI in family search in the labs. I've already been playing around in there and found several things. And I am so excited to really have some time to dig in and really see what I can find.
Right. I missed that title, so I must go and have a look for it.
It was in their tech forum on the first day. So if that's taped, that's where they talk about it.
Okay, so I'm going to have a look at that. I did see there was the MyHeritage AI writing your family history. I don't know if any of you have tried that or went to that presentation. No, I tried one the other day, and it was, most of it was okay, but there were some real lulus in it. So when I investigated the references they'd probably found, they'd killed off my great grandfather and buried him in Berkshire. I suppose it's a bit like burying someone in California when actually they came from Massachusetts. And I know exactly where he's buried, so that was a load of rubbish. So I think AI is fun, it's here to stay, but you need to watch it, don't you? Okay, well, thanks for sharing that one, Carla. Has anyone got anything else that they've come across that was either new or perhaps just showed you where to look or how to look?
I did watch, it was also about AI, but it was about being careful, just like you said, what can go wrong. So yes, it's here to stay, but not everything is as good as it could be or should be.
Yeah.
And there are things that can go wrong. So I think it was on at the same time as another AI thing that was trying to sell a software or something like that. Yeah, but it was a very nice contrast. And then I like to watch the the different ones that explain about how you research in different areas, and sort of when you end up in a new area, that even within the USA, for example, you can't expect that you have the same resources and the same archives, and then you come to another country and it's totally different again. And something that today, one of the first ones that for my time, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know what time in the morning it is in the US at that time. For Hillary, it would have been 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was about using archives, the church archives in the Scandinavian countries, and it compared the similarities, but also talked about the differences. Again, I sort of realized that I am extremely lucky to be Swedish, because we have the house examinations. So
and of course
we don't have to put up with the census every 10 years. We can track people all through the year with every single move they do.
Yes, because John Svensson is the son of Sven Johannesson, who was the son of Johannes. What's it?
Yeah, but that just means that everyone has the same name, so you have to be really extremely careful to follow the right person. But it's more that you can follow every single move they do every single year, not only every 10 years. So if you research in the UK or in the US or in Denmark or in Norway, and they move, you have found them, and then they move before the next census, you lost them, unless you know where they moved to. While in the Swedish ones, you just follow every year, and when you come to the year when they actually do the move, it even states in the book where they move to.
Yes. And how do the Swedish records cope with illegitimacies, or where the father is unknown, Anna?
It would say unknown, unless sometimes the minister or whoever wrote in the book has highlighted, either in the house examination or even in the birth book, that this person has been pointed out as father. Then it probably has been up in the court.
Right.
When that is. But there are you should always go to DNA if you want to be 100% sure, because I have a situation in my family tree. I came in contact with someone who turned out to be a third cousin. But initially, we didn't find that connection. We just found it strange that we shared so many centimorgans. But it turned out that his great-grandfather wasn't the person he thought, although the church books states that that's his great-grandfather. But it turned out that when the mother, the biological mother, got married to this man, several years after the child was born, they just went to the church and said, "Oh, this is the father. He's been the father all along," which was a lie. But that way, he was allowed to inherit.
Yeah.
This was before adoptions and things like that. The real dad was a brother to my great-grandfather, who had emigrated, but that time was married and settled on Vancouver Island in British Columbia.
It is interesting how there are variations, isn't it? Now, what you've described, if you were looking in older English parish registers, often the reputed father would be noted in the baptism record. That's where you would probably find it. Later records, it tends not to be mentioned, but the reason that it was recorded as reputed father, etc., was that if the parish could prove reasonably, without doubt, that he was the father, then a bastardy bond would be issued against the father, and he would have to make a contribution. I don't know if you've come across this elsewhere, the rest of you, but there will be the bastardy bond will be somewhere in the records, and often it will go to the either the quarter sessions or the petty sessions court. So that will be another place to look for fathers. So if you're looking through English records and you can't find a father, those would be good places to go to. Later on, of course, it tends not to be registered, you know, an unmarried mother, unmarried brother. But there are often ways of finding out.
There's always different places. So, for example, when if they are young boys and they are becoming seamen, and they join a seaman house, as it's called in Sweden, if they're underage, both parents are noted down in the book when they join the house. And that way you can find sort of unknown fathers as well.
Yeah.
So there are lots of tricks, depending on what time in history it is about.
Yeah. And I think this is where family history societies are so helpful, because it's knowing these little wrinkles. If you're in another country, you don't always fully understand how records works, and it's really worth going and talking to local people, because you know they've got the gen very often. But just a plug for us, if you want to come to East Surrey, we can help. Anyway, thank you, Anna, for sharing that with us.
Where in East Surrey are you?
East Surrey. Sorry?
Where in East Surrey?
Well, East Surrey, I don't actually live in East Surrey. Is that what your question was?
Yeah, so where are you? Because Surrey is quite big and East Surrey is also quite big. So where are we talking?
Well, we're talking the ancient counties along the south bank of the Thames and the parishes. So we're talking about Rotherhithe, Southwark, going west as far as Richmond, and then coming down. I can fish out a map and tell you, but hang on. This is one of our older journals, and we've got the parish map nicely set out on it. So we come down Kingston, Thames, Ditton, Leatherhead, Fetcham, Mickleham, down to Newdigate, and then on the Kent-Surrey border, we'll be Deptford. I don't know who's got a radio or a television on in the background. You know they have money. Henge, Addington, Tatsfield, Limpsfield, Linkfield. Does that kind of help you?
Yeah.
Or are they all meaningless names to most?
No. I've spent quite a lot of time in around the Farnham area. It's the other end of Surrey.
That's West Surrey, yes. That's near Aldershot and all the military records.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Aldershot Barracks, yes, big army base.
I used to live in Borden.
Sorry?
I used to live in Borden in Hampshire for a while. Before I moved to Portsmouth and then back to Borden and then to Gloucester.
That's got naval base records, links. When I did my master's in human and applied physiology, we had a journey out to Borden, and they have this huge grain silo in the building, which is filled with water, and that's where people practice walking in underwater in 1 atmosphere diving suits, and we all had a go. And they lowered me down first, as I was the heaviest, being a mature student, you know. But my legs were too short to make to get the legs to work, so it was a bit of a shame. But anyway, I've got a photograph of me being with the visor coming down of this great, white suit that looks like a Michelin man. Very interesting year of my life.
Oh well. And for Kathy, that's where the Canadians were during the Second World War.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if someone else has got something that they'd like to share with their findings. I know we've got M. Keats Rudolph and Kathy Stone and Pat Green. I don't know if any of you would like to say something. No, come on, M. Keats Rudolph. What do we actually call you?
Marcy.
Thrown on.
Hi, I'm Marcy. I was just trying to find a document. My grandfather was a Bernardo boy, and when you mentioned the illegitimacy and how to find perhaps who the father is not known truly, but they thought it might be someone named Lewis Shaw, who was a traveling merchant for something. And my grandfather's mother died a week after childbirth. It was complications. And a neighbor took him in. And then it's eventually he ended up in Bernardo's and brought here to Canada.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for more information about his mother and, of course, his dad.
I think DNA is going to be your answer, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I have done DNA. It
Yes.
hasn't brought anything up yet.
No, but keep fishing
Okay.
and push your DNA results around the different websites.
Yes.
Make your pool bigger. Yes. Just coming back to that illegitimacy thing and the inheritance, which you said could take place in Sweden. In England, if you were illegitimate until fairly recently, you couldn't inherit unless you were specifically named in the wills. And it's another way of finding your illegitimacies. And because of this situation, you'll often find the arrangements for the illegitimate child are almost the first thing in the will, because the father or mother wants to make it very clear that they are making provision for this illegitimate child. So sometimes you might be lucky, but it's waiting, serendipity sometimes is your answer. Okay, anyone else like to come in?
I did watch the session, or half of it. I think one of our sessions ran into part of it, on tracing your marginalized ancestors.
You need to come closer to your microphone.
Okay. Hang on. There we go. Either that or it's quit working. Is that better?
That's better, yes.
I caught part of the session and watched the rest of it on tracing your marginalized ancestors in Britain. But I don't think that is going to help me much, because I was taking well, I guess they do talk about she did talk about the workhouses and places like that, because I think most of mine were just poor, not criminals or anything. But I did hear about the Bastardy thing in that session too, so that was quite interesting. And so I'm hoping to listen to the rest of it and hear what the rest of that said. And
yeah, okay, thanks. Do you know when this ancestor arrived in North America? I'm assuming North America.
Yeah, 1929.
Yeah. And were there any other people on the same shipping list that you can?
Yeah, it was my grandparents, my grandmother and my grandfather and my aunt and my uncle.
Yeah.
All came from Britain.
But you don't know where?
Oh yeah, they came from County Durham.
Okay, yeah.
But we're trying to go back further, like those, and then their parents and everything. We know who they are. It's just going back further. And my understanding is that at some point the church in that area burnt down, and that's hit the brick wall for the research. There is where my cousin got to, but she's then been researching it was her dad that came from England. She's been researching her mom's side too, which goes back many more generations with ability to trace it. So I think she got more interested in that side. And so I want to see if I can go back further, but we are back, I think, about 4 generations. So
yeah, the thing about Durham, I mean, were they miners, coal miners?
yes.
Yeah, well, a lot of the miners were on annual contracts. So you may find that you need to look in other areas of England where there were coal mines. So you could come down the coast to places like Easington,
Okay.
or go west to coalfields around Worcestershire, or even further west. I've got ancestors who ended up in Easington on the east coast, but they started right over on the west of the country in Shropshire and the South Cheshire coal mines, and they moved across through Worcestershire and keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I think the Society of Genealogists has a book called My Ancestor Was a Miner. You might find use as this is an interesting wash-up, isn't it, Barbara? We seem to be covering a great breadth of stuff. Pat, would you like to say something? Sorry, I'm picking on you, but I think everyone should have a fair bash, you know. No, your mic's off. It's off. Still off. Do you need to go to microphone settings at the bottom of the screen? Can you adjust it on the little arrow beside it? There's an audio settings button you might need to play with.
Or it could be your own mic.
Well, I'm hearing everyone else, so I
Yeah.
don't see why I shouldn't see a Pat. Oh, well, while Pat's playing with her buttons, Barbara, we haven't asked you what you've found to enjoy at RootsTech.
A little busy, but I've been tied up a bit with a lot of the stuff doing this, but and I love the reference to a sideshow. I'm going to use that. I have to say, I was quite astonished. There's a little product manager in me that just can't help getting into how different software platforms are presenting themselves and other kinds of things. I am still getting this deep heartburn to all of these different kinds of AI tools, make me a little anxious. And what I love about the family history community is the discipline of genealogists have been struggling with truth and fabrications for generations, long before any of us.
Yeah.
So in some ways, the rigor and structure to ferret out the illogical and undocumented is a very, very good thing. It worries me greatly in a lot of the created images and AI pollution of a stream, because though we may be able to prove it now, once you get a few generations of fake data in the system, it becomes increasingly polluted, and that's disturbing. As a little community here, we've had some wonderful blooms of excitement and energy and creativity that, even just as we got started, fired me up for new ways to reach out and find things, which have me excited. And I love having you become part of this community right away, not only with your humor and spirit, but also these kinds of hot tips of things that we might do to research. The insight I had as we were sharing, we'd been talking about Anna's photo behind her in a previous event, and it had me thinking of a photo that I have that I've been trying to find the original of. And when I put it up in the background of my screen, I realized, oh, it's screened, which suggests it had been in a newspaper. So it was a celebration of a 50th wedding anniversary, and I was like, go look in newspapers. Some of the original, and or at least as close to the facts as I can get. And so that was a kind of a fun tidbit. So Pat, do you have your microphone sorted?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, you do.
Come on in. Water.
I don't
Tell us
really
how
know.
you sorted it first, because I always like to learn these things.
Yeah, I think it had to do with my headphones that I had on. I think it was interfering. So I just turned them off. So, but no, I don't have a whole lot to say. I have been trying to listen to as much RootsTech as possible, but that's been a little difficult for me. I haven't searched a lot in Europe. I do have one particular great-great-great-grandfather who was from London, and I did find some records where he spent some time in jail and for pickpocketing, and then came over to New York and ended up in North Carolina. So, Ohio, not North Carolina. But I haven't had time to get over there. Even though I was over in London recently, I didn't have time to go do searching.
Yeah. Do you know what kind of time he was caught pickpocketing?
He was born in 1820. He came over in 1849, and he was about 20 years old when he was caught pickpocketing.
Yeah.
So it was about 1840.
If he was pickpocketing in London, he might actually appear on the Old Bailey Online website.
I think that's where I found him. That he
Yeah.
was guilty and stuff like that. I'm looking for his parents and haven't been able to find anything for that yet, but I'm pretty sure that's where I found him.
Okay. Well, best of luck with that one.
Thank you.
1840. If you miss the 1841 census, that's a bit tricky. So I think you're probably looking at DNA matches again. But you should be okay getting an 1840 descendant if you're careful.
I think I have a couple. I haven't pursued it much yet, but I'm pretty sure there are a couple that are related to DNA.
And the baptism record, of course, you can try those, and then rule them out. Really, find the parents in the baptism, and then go through the census for parents of that name, and see if you can track him down through the censuses to eliminate each set of parents in turn. Would be, I think, my modus operandi, or whatever the Latin posh phrase is. Okay. Anything else anyone would like to add?
Since we've been talking about DNA, and I was told this secondhand, so I haven't had a chance to go back and look at Ancestry's talk, but supposedly anybody who uses the dotting system with parsing out their matches on Ancestry, they're going from 24 to 60 dots, which I was thrilled about.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it allows you to continue without having to reuse dots or find a different way around it. And I was really excited. I think that's a really good tool, and it's been really helpful for me.
And we keep hearing that they're going to be able to tell us which grandparent we fit with as well, because they do maternal paternal now, don't they? Been doing that for a while.
They're putting that behind the paywall, though. So anybody who does not have a subscription of some type to Ancestry no longer has access to that. So
that's true.
I've had a subscription for a long time, so it's not a problem for me. But I think some of those new things that they've been proposing are going to come up behind that paywall. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that one.
Is this going to be an add-on paywall or the basic paywall?
If you are a subscriber of any tier in Ancestry, you have access to them. Okay. It's just for the people who have done DNA tests only but are not subscribers, that they can't get to that without either a typical subscription or what they now are calling, I think it's called a DNA subscription. So, but in some way they have to be a member to access that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's not unreasonable, is it? They're getting access to a lot of technology, and things cost money. So, yeah. Well, that's exciting stuff, isn't it? I find the through lines are really quite useful, but every now and then there's something a bit odd, and I've got a very strange add-on. I was really excited when I saw it because I thought it was going to unlock a door for me. And I looked at this vertical tree because it's a private tree, but because I've got a DNA match, they give you the direct line, and it's rubbish.
I have found that, especially on the fourth great grandparents and some occasionally the third, if somebody has a tree or multiple people have a tree with incorrect information, it reflects that. Yes. And I have an Irish, the well, it's actually a brother to my second great grandmother, and they have him identified with incorrect parents across the board. And we've been able to prove by DNA that that information is wrong, but convincing enough people to correct it, the through lines continues to just reflect it incorrectly.
Yeah, and there's no way you can reject that top link and take them off the tree as the, yeah, it's really annoying. I've got another one that I did write to the person who at the bottom of the tree and said, I've rejected it at this stage, and the reason is, you know, your William French is actually in the census returns, it says he was born at Wethersfield, and actually here are his parents and the baptism date, but he hasn't changed it, which is annoying, but there we are.
Very.
Josh, you can do. Yeah. Well, I think that, are we winding up or winding down, Barbara, or what do you want to do?
Well, we do like to keep these to a little tight 30 minutes. So yes, we can take this as the close of the formal portion of our program and take it on to the after party, where we can continue for another 30 minutes or so, if you'd like. And so let me, with this, close up the wash up, sort of put the toys away, and we'll continue.
Fine.